Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Old Emo Dave, and we've got a special one for you today. I am here with Axiom Mega Pauper Top 4, Nationals Top 8, a former Get Your Deck Out podcast guest. Francis Tyler, aka Go Ham MTG Online, is here. And Francis, you're in a very special place.
Yeah, I'm actually in Lucca right now for Paupergeddon this weekend.
So, someone who I thought would be really good to bring on the channel for a rundown before this weekend's Paupergeddon / Eternal Weekend over in Italy and UK Nationals here back in the UK, to take a look at Pauper, the top 5 decks that we should be looking out for, and just really what we would expect in the metagame. Fine, without necessarily like breaking up any of your plans, what has been your sort of take on the Pauper format at the moment, and sort of what you need to be looking at when you're preparing for a big tournament?
I think the format's quite fast. It's quite punishing. The monocolored decks are just like a step above everything else, right? They're always playing from turn 1. So if you're ever playing a tap land, you have to be able to catch up with some pretty powerful stuff. There's not a lot of decks that can do.
Yeah, there's a lot of go fast or go tall, go big mechanics, but like forever, the accessibility of a very, very big and wide card pool that gets added to even by like the Eternal format print-ins. There's a continuing diversity, a continual flip-flop, as we'll all know, and people who know me locally. Mr. Boggles main here. Sometimes my deck's number 1, sometimes my deck's unplayable. It's and it doesn't tend to be much other than just a shift in meta rather than necessarily like something breaking it. We're kind of clean off a few bans. You know, we had our Bruise Gale ban back earlier this summer, Deadly Dispute ban, and obviously Hide to Hide is no longer in the meta. We're going to go through and just have a quick check on what we expect to see, because Italy has got a little bit of a different take to the UK. They kind of like Pauper over there, Fran. I know you've only just arrived, but there's a lot to take in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because obviously, for those who don't know, Paupergeddon is a massive event that happen in Italy about every 2 or 3 months. They dwarf the Axiom Now numbers that we have here in the UK. They are even close to the size of some of the smaller Spotlight series that have been around.
All the bigger ones.
Even the bigger ones, yeah. And it's very possible this weekend that we're going to see 4 figures for a Pauper event, and that's just incredible to see. And you can check out this coverage all weekend on the Eternal Weekend channels across Twitch and YouTube. But Italy love a particular type of deck, I think. Van is something that we probably want to call out. What is the pet deck of the Italians in your scouting report?
They love Jund.
So that's Jund Wildfire, yeah? Is that mainly, has that been a forever thing, or just kind of like the trend that's been seen since the Rising Chrysalis meta?
Yeah, since Rising Chrysalis has been a thing, that's when it really picked up in popularity. And ever since then, it's been a mainstay of the format. It was always quite good into Brood Scale, because you could just load it with interaction, just make sure they never combo and then kill them with them first, over 15 turns or whatever. And it's just been a mainstay since then. It's very flexible, it's very adaptable, it's in good colors. You can build it to suit what you need. And like, you've got some of the best spells in Pauper in your colours.
Almost sort of like the Boros energy of Pauper, in respect of like,
in a way.
It was there, it was really popular, it was really powerful, unnerfed a little bit, retooled itself, and is still kicking around. Can understand why, like in Italy, where they definitely have a grinder mindset for a lot more of this, why it still remained one of the top decks to play. We'll see a lot of that this weekend. We'll see a lot of mirror combos into each other. We'll probably see quite a few of them at the top tables. Back in the UK, I think there's one thing we can definitely say. You're going to probably see an elf deck.
There'll always be an elf deck.
There'll always be an elf deck, and there'll always be someone from slightly north of Birmingham bringing it as well. Our good old friends up north, shout out all the guys like the Casting Commons podcast and that. Whenever you listen to it, that part of the world and that part of the Pauper sphere always seem to have an elf deck just running the tables.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily win anything online. Like, it does okay, but we don't ever see anybody calling out for a banning of a Llanowar elf or anything like that, do we?
No, they love a Priest of Titania up north. And I mean, if you've ever played the deck, it's really fun. Like, I can see why it's appealing, but I mean, it does fall into some of the pitfalls that a lot of the well, everyone's sort of prepared for it anyway, right? By accident, everyone's playing Kraken Shamans and Breath Weapons, or they're just doing something even more broken. Is the issue with Elves, I think.
Yeah, elves are like your I think almost like your mono white humans of the Pioneer days is another good example of like solid enough probably gets found out, but on its day can just run the tables. I look forward to seeing the elf player completely showing me wrong. If you do win Pauper Nationals with an elf deck now, you have an open ticket onto the podcast to come and dunk on me for that. But we will see how that ends up. But we got top 5 that we picked. Fans picked these. I'm here just as a passenger. Fan is the one who's out there playing to win the big thing. So let's take his advice. And the first one we're going to go into, what we think's got a chance of winning this weekend, is I'll just call it Spy combo, because there is things like 4-land Spy, Balustrade Spy. Why do you think this is going to be in a good shot this weekend?
It's a deck that has, I mean, essentially similar to Elves, it uses the Winding Way, Lead the Stampede card engine. So it plays so few lands in the deck. It's either 4, 5, or 6. It's got a million ways to get the lands out of your deck, which means your Lead the Stampedes are regularly hitting 4 or 5 cards. Your Winding Ways are hitting 3 or 4 cards. And it means that even if you've only got a couple main deck answers to your opponent's interaction, like maybe, you need to answer their Spell Bomb to combo them, you need to answer their Counter Spell to combo them, you'll probably find it, right? And it's the fact that it's a 1-card combo once you've got those lands out of your deck.
So for everyone who sort of like is watching on the video feed, Fan is doing the absolute classic Magic Grinder thing and got a Boulder Tower holding up his phone.
Yeah.
Like, shout out deck box creators everywhere. This is exactly what it's made for, is to do podcasts on the run.
Best deck box ever.
There is loads of variants. I think there's probably like a Pauper podcast somewhere that's probably debated 4, 5, or 6 lands and is what is best.
Yeah.
I think it depends, I guess, what strategy you're leaning into, whether you've got any kind.
Doesn't really matter.
I've actually seen like an Elves Spy deck as recently as well, which like seems to maybe potentially be like a recent innovation. Or like
guys are big into that. I think it's the same engine, right? You lead the Stampede, Winding Way, make loads of mana, do your combo. It's much of a muchness, really. I think one might be a bit more resilient to the Shaman than the other, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same.
I always feel though, like looking at it as a literal commoner on the side of the commoner format, there's some really great graveyard hate, specifically Relic of Progenitus. So like, how do these decks get through just pure speed?
So I mean, to deal with just pure speed, they can race. They can kill you as early as turn 3 or 4 with a good draw. And if they have to deal with things like Relic of Progenitus or Counter Magic, they've got their Mesmeric Fiends and Masked Vandals, which they can very easily enable with their land cyclers going straight to the graveyard. They can exile your Relic of Progenitus, your Spell Bomb, which you see in the main decks of so many black decks at the moment. Alternatively, if you're channeling all of your focus into stopping them comboing, they'll just kill you with Degenerate Sense, right? They're playing so much ramp in their deck that even with 4 lands, they'll cast a Generous End on turn 4, like with no issue. Yeah.
You so often fight over like a 1/1 flyer in Pauper when just trying to like control the board. So if you are in a state where they've used all the resources, but I'm just casting a 6/6, that tends to sometimes just be enough, especially if it's not an artifact creature in any shape or form. And yes, like you say, the good graveyard hate tends to be artifact based, and artifact hate is reasonable in Pauper if you need to lean that way. Still a little bit of a glass cannon though, I guess. Like it's a deck that doesn't really have it has a plan A and a plan B, but plan B is very similar to plan A. So once you've been shut down, you need to scoop and go next game. So the grease fang of the format, if you will, for those original Pioneer enjoyers. Taking down the event, potential top 8 pick, or...
I think it could win. It could. I imagine everyone would be prepared for it. But it's powerful enough to beat the hate. It's got all the tools it needs. If you have a good draw and you play the deck well, I don't see why you couldn't win an event with it, especially one like National.
Nice. Well, that does lead nicely on to like the solid. We're talking about like the glass cannon deck, and then like we'll see we're sticking at number 4. we've got the Jund Wildfire variants. Again, another deck that seems to have across, when you just look across the deck list across all of the sites. I know we pulled up here like a recent 5.0, but like you can go into many different variants of building it, like more refurbished familiars versus Clarkhand Showermans, a couple of more Nyxborn Hydras.
Yeah.
Cards rotate in and out of this deck based on metagame, but it's ultimately ramp and get through your deck, stick the big things, and eventually resource win.
Yeah, jump them out, right? That's the classic, isn't it? It's got all the shell is so powerful, right? It fixes its colors on its own, it draws cards, it gets mana going. And once it's churning the cards, it's really hard to stop. On top of that, it gets to play broken cards like First Familiar and Writhing Chrysalis, which are just unmatched on rate, right? Because they're from Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah, I noticed from when the deck obviously like lost Basket Brew Scale and stuff, like Gixian Infiltrators come into the deck, as a bit more of a staple, and that sort of creature package, refurbished Familiar, Kraken Shaman, Nyxborn Hydra, Writhing Chrysalis, Gixian Infiltrator, it basically stays there, a variance of artifacts. The variants of instants, cleansing wildfires, and just that one-off makeshift munitions to just like win the grindy game.
Yeah,
it's really funny. I was sorting some bulk recently, and I thought like I hit gold when I found 15 makeshift munitions. But then when I realized all these decks only play a one-off, means that it was still firmly a 10p card instead of maybe a £1.50 or £2 card. Yeah. But yeah, super solid. We're gonna likely see a lot of it, and like that's probably the classic. We saw this in the most recent weekend in Modern, and like the top decks not being so dominant means that they were probably hated originally. So, and also when they like fight into each other, like they sort of kill each other in the metagame.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say this deck's going to be dominant to the top tables, but we should see we should see a couple of them at the top tables and doing well, but not so popular that we're going to see like a 25% of though, would you say?
No, nothing's going to be 25% in Paup, but I don't think.
Would you say we're looking at maybe again a little bit like the modern meta games, like 11-12% as the top
7,
tables?
8, for Jund, I would say something like that.
That's like a really healthy format, like really well managed. It's almost like having a panel is exactly how all the formats should do it. But we'll just stick that one out there, Wizards of the Coast, just for you to reference. Is there any particular things you've seen during your testing with Jund Wildfire that has been spice over like the last few weeks that you're expecting to see to be the kicker, or is that something which is just we're too deep into this deck? It's way too refined.
I mean, the people who play Jund Wildfire exclusively, the masters of the deck, they know exactly what they're doing. I think the Gixian Infiltrator is the latest innovation for that deck. A lot of people are playing it to have a more aggressive stance into the combo decks. From what I gather, I don't play a lot of the deck myself. And that works, right? If you want a 2-drop that just sort of gets bigger from you drawing cards and doing the things you're doing anyway, if your opponent can't kill it or bounce it or whatever, then it's really good. If it goes unchecked and it's a faster clock than anything else you have. I think that's probably the latest innovation we've had. Apart from that, it's like sort of what sideboard cards do you want to play. Like Fairy Macabre's been picking up in popularity across all decks to deal with the spy package, because they can't really, it's not face up. They can't just go for it when they don't know your hand. But I don't know. I think Jund's a solid deck. It's pretty standardized now. But if you're going to change anything, it's going to be like 4 or 5 cards.
Fair. Standardized play pattern, standardized way of going. We talked about this being like a really fast format, and why we sort of like it's 2 and 3, but we're gonna maybe just call them joint second. Into say, one of the red decks is also quite favored. We called out specifically in plan of this that mono red rally or red madness. Again, sometimes it's red black madness, but like it's mainly red madness with a bit of a splash, right? They're the decks you expected to sort of come out to the top. Why specifically these 2 variants? And also like is there a particular one that you feel is favored into everything of these bigger formats and these bigger fields?
Yeah, so I think these 2 decks are really honestly completely different, even though they share like quite a few cards. If we look at the mono red Madness deck, which was probably the most popular online for a while, especially in the most recent months, it's purely a burn deck, right? It doesn't really play any attacking creatures. It's just trying to churn on card draw, and then you play Kessid Flame Breather, in some cases Thermal Alchemist, but mostly Gutter Snipe to make to make sure that these card draw spells are always dealing at least 2 or 3 damage to your opponents. And then when you do cast a Galvanic Blast, it's doing 6-7. You've also got, Lava Darts, flashing back a Lava Dart goes from 1 damage to 3. So casting a Lava Dart is 1 mana, deal 6 damage in some instances. It's a really powerful deck, and it's quite hard to shut down, because if you're fighting them on, what you should probably be doing is fighting them on the card draw spells if you can, but then you're still, any stack battle, you're taking damage off of the Flame Breather that's gone unanswered, right? So that's really powerful. And then the other side of the coin, you've got the Rally deck, which doesn't require any setup, right? The Madness deck's probably playing the game from turn 3 onwards in most cases, but the Rally deck just comes out the gates. It's going 1 drop, 1 drop, 1 drop, maybe 2 drop, and then hopefully you're dead. It's playing 1 or 2 Fire Blast to get over the line, a couple draw spells, but nothing crazy. I would probably, if it were me, I would probably be playing the Rally deck of the two of them right now. It has a really good time into the Madness deck. It's a lot better into the Terror deck. I think my main concern playing it would be would just be getting got by a big Shaman or a Breath Weapon, right? But if people aren't playing Breath Weapons and they've opted to play more Weather the Storms, right, to fight the other deck, then you gain a bit of equity there. And the two decks being red decks but having quite different game plans means that it puts a lot of stress on people's sideboards. So if you make the right call for the right day, either one of them's a really good shout.
Yeah, I think this maybe is play pattern. Like I actually sort of referenced the Madness one as being Rakdos, but like actually there was a point where like it was like is it Claim to the Vein or something to the Veins?
Arms of the Vein, yeah, that's the Rakdos variant. That used to be a lot more popular.
But it's not really that no more. Like, but it does have that little black. Thanks to deck building sites online, it still has that little black pip because of Sneaky Snacker.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't acknowledge the blue pip, but it does acknowledge the black pip. So, both decks playing very different strategies. I like the Hornburg deck as well, just for the fact that you can get them out of nowhere. You can also rebuild, your hate. I don't want to say you're unhateable, but it's like you're just casting all your spells and go.
Yeah.
And if all you're gonna get got to, as we say at the moment, is a Breath Weapon, then that's okay, because looking at like the deck list we've even seen to now, like there's maybe 1-2 Breath Weapons in a Jund Wildfire, but there's a lot not being played. And also you can kind of like win like the Madness Mirror here with things like End the Festivities and do quite well. Got quite a little bit of hate for yourself though, being completely in red. You can just go Pyroblast, Elemental Blast, and sort of just keep yourself safe and forecast into the fire to stop any of those artifact decks getting going. Like with our stat, and especially if you're playing a big tournament. And I think this is like where there would be like a niche difference between if I was playing Paupergeddon versus I was playing Nationals in the UK. Nationals in the UK is very close to beating last year's record, which like congrats, considered us on the same weekend as this if they do. That's a much smaller tournament, so like you've got less to think about, whereas this tournament is going to be massive amount of people, so is the beneficial ability to play like a half-hour round and go and take a 20-minute break is going to be so much more in your benefit. So feels like a good solid choice, specifically if you need a little bit more mental breather before in between all of your games. So liking that myself. I think that would be also my pick if I was alongside you this weekend over there in I was going to say Liverpool, in Italy.
Yes.
Literally just finished doing the Liverpool vlog. It's actually there. It's actually on the stack. It actually would have gone out when this video went out, but we thought, well, we better film this. It's a good filler for the run up to the Paupergeddon. But coming up to last, we're going to bring into the Blue Tower deck. Actually, it's just blue now. It used to be more of a Demir variant, but it's pretty solidly in one color. Take us through what that looks like, man.
Yeah, so the goal of the deck is you play some 27s, some sorceries. You want to get 5 or 6 of them in the graveyard and then start casting Talarian Terrors and Cryptic Serpents as early as turn 3, ideally. Ideally, also multiple of them. And it's just such a big tempo swing that so many decks struggle to get through. The mono red Madness deck, because it's also spending the first 2 turns setting up, it's not actually going to kill you till like turn 5 in most cases. This is the blue deck anyway. So you're just able to slam down the massive creatures that they'll never answer, because the lightning will never get to these things. The removal is, you need very specific, usually black removal to deal with these creatures. And they also come with a bit of a disruption package. They got 4 counter spell, 2 spell pierce, 2 dispel. So anything that you're doing that they feel like they can disrupt, because they're doing all of their set. So if you cast something, maybe at the wrong timing, it might get spell pierced, and what's happened is they've gained a huge advantage because essentially they've banked your mana for the rest of the game and they've slowed you down. So by the time that they deploy their creatures, you can be really far behind.
Yeah, and the very, very horrible. I'm gonna call it a lock piece. I know it's not a lock in classic terms, but if you're trying to play a fair creature strategy, like Sleep of the Dead, just basically like is so painful. We played plenty of Pauper together where like I've tried to just jam my mono white weenies in and like you just tap in my 4/4s down and I'm just like, oh, I can't do anything because I can't draw a card. So deck's solid, deck's good. Obviously Delver Secrets like make some of the decks as well, so it's, you know, for those classic people out there, yeah, you can just go Delver turn 1 into Brainstorm. This is where Pauper's got his charm, right? Like the super powerful commons and commons, which are long banned in Modern, are still there and still available to play. Pulling up results as well. So on that basis, like the field is going to be very well prepped for this deck. How are the top decks counteracting this? Just going faster?
I think the Jund deck's actually fairly well positioned because they can never act like the Terror deck doesn't have any real removal. It struggles to actually break through a Chrysalis because it's making such a wide board at once. So if they can stall to a point where they get a Death Touch card per enchantment or just like a few pieces of removal and draw some cards, they'll be all right. But this Terror deck is going so much faster and it's being disruptive at the same time. The red decks in particular are really struggling with it. And to be honest, I don't really know what the data looks like against Spy, but I imagine it probably has an alright time into Spy as well. Its game plan is so straightforward and so powerful that you can almost ignore some of what your opponent's doing in a lot of cases.
No, for sure. Just intriguing where like the meta is, because we've just touched on 5 decks at the very top, but again, bit of it based on feel, based on testing. Like we can literally go and say, like, we haven't touched on Affinity, we haven't touched on mono blue fairies, mono white weenie, we haven't touched on the heroic deck. So open. Pauper's so open, and you definitely should pick a strategy, pick a lane. A little bit like Modern, we talked about it in the last podcast, and people were talking about it all weekend. You can pick a lane, you can pick something you enjoy, you can do well with it, and you can also get in for less than $100 in all cases. Pretty much, unless you're buying Grixis Affinity off a really high ranked seller who's like hitting you with all the alt arts, you can get in and you can play. And obviously we could be covering it a little bit more on the channel now with all the like popularity this is getting in the UK. Fran, we're not going to obviously ask you what you're playing. We're going to see it because you're going to be at the top 8 tables on Sunday. But best of luck with the weekend.
Thank you.
Best of luck with it. We look forward to seeing on the socials all of like your trip, the stories from your trip and the results. If you are getting your deck out this weekend in UK Nationals or in Paupergeddon, leave us a comment in the description what you're playing so you can be fully scouted, and also let us know, because obviously then we'll get you on the podcast if you do well. Thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend's festivities. We will be watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Bye.